Yo, Trippy Gang, we got a lot to talk about. Hey, so look, UFC 266 delivered in a way I couldn't even imagine. Bro, all the fights that I watched at least was good. The co-main event was a little bit of a snooze, and Curtis Blades versus Rosenstrike was a bit of a snooze. But other than that, you guys, this card delivered. I mean, Vegas got a good one. I wish they would have brought this one to Texas, man. The energy. I know they've been bringing a lot of fights to Texas, but they've been bringing it to Houston. Not to freaking Dallas where I'm at. They need to bring one. They need to bring one here, bro. I would love it, but there's a lot of restrictions in Texas, and I get that. They can't, blow the green out here. But you know what, bro? You're an athlete. Just deal with it. Especially Nick Diaz. I bet Nick Diaz would hate the fight here, right? But in speaking of that, let's just go ahead and hop into the fights, bro. Like I said, most of the fights were great. I mean, the prelims were great. I mean, Marlon Moraes versus Merab. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce his last name, bro. You guys, anyway, versus Merab. I mean, that fight was dicey to say the least. But honestly, the difference in that fight is just that Marlon Moraes came with it, and I respect Marlon Moraes because he came to fight. You can't say that this guy just came out here and had a lackluster performance. He had a great performance, in my opinion. Basically, what it came down to, homeboy got rocked. Merab got rocked and realized he couldn't just sit here and only struck with Marlon Moraes. I mean, he has the power to hurt Moraes, but yeah, he couldn't sit there and stand with Marlon Moraes, otherwise he was going to get finished. And he almost paid the price. Marlon Moraes banged him with that left hook, and he just could not get out of the way of it. But let's talk about, to me, the story of this dang fight this card was recovery. I mean, just talk about the recoveries of like this fight of Marlon Moraes versus Merab, and then you got Alexander Volkanovski, that main event. I mean, I'm just talking about these guys come out here and they threw leather, but it ultimately ended up with Marlon Moraes folding in the second round. Hey, look, all respect to Marlon Moraes. He emptied the gas tank because why wouldn't you? This would have been this guy's first win in like 3 fights. I would have emptied the gas tank too. It could be more than that because I'm a firm believer that he lost the Jose Aldo fight. Matter of fact, I know he lost the Jose Aldo fight. I feel like that dude probably lost every single round of that fight. But, they gave it to him anyway. But, like I said, man, Marlon Moraes, bro, I don't know what is even next for him, dude. It's like, he needs to move. If it's really the weight cut, and that's really why this dude can't keep up, dude, move. You're a big bantamweight anyway. I hate to say that. I know that dude can't cut another 10 pounds to go to flyweight. I feel like that dude, I don't even want to see that. What I think this dude should do is just try your hand at the featherweights, bro. Why not? Why would it hurt? You get up there and you lose there. That'll be crazy because he's had one of the biggest. Everybody bigged this guy up as like one of the big bantamweight prospects, and have he go out there and he lose to featherweights now? It's like he can't find his home in the UFC, and that's just a sad reality. He's turning into Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee is dealing with the same things. It's like these guys need like a middle ground. But I mean, bantamweight is only 10 pounds from featherweight, so it's like, I don't know, man. It's like he needs to, I don't know. If he goes up, I feel like he should move up. I feel like he should move up featherweight, but I understand that he's big for bantamweight, but the featherweights may be too big. But why not? He could probably carry some more power and probably turn into a one-shot knockout artist at featherweight, but who knows? But anyway, enough with that fight. Let's address the freaking elephant in the room, shall we? Nick Diaz gets TKO'd by Robbie Lawler. Okay, so I've seen a lot of people pretty much there's a lot of mixed opinions, and I kind of get it, but mainly it's just that I feel like he made the right choice in a way. Only because my main worry for this fight is just that I wanted Nick Diaz to win, so I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I didn't care who won. I wanted Nick to win. But whenever you think of whenever you think in the grand scheme of things, whenever you think the future for both of these guys, it didn't matter who won. Because neither of them are getting close to a title. Neither of them is competing with anybody in the top 5. And neither of them should honestly continue fighting. If Nick Diaz would have won, but he took a bucket load of damage, it turned into a war, how it was going, I don't. I mean, the dude literally tried to walk into the cage with the shirt on. It could just be anxious. I will chalk that up to anxiety because that just looks like an anxiety move. But anxious Nick or not, I just don't think that he should fight, bro. He couldn't even remember what day it was. He was going off in tangents, not as bad as he was on the Ariel Helwani interview. Actually, it was a big improvement from the Ariel Helwani interview. But still, the guy, it just seems like something's off, and I don't want to wish that on a fighter, saying like it may be brain damage. Oh my gosh, I just don't want to say it, only because it's like that's devastating to think about. But whenever you think about like the future and longevity of his career, where does he go if he beats Robbie Lawler? Honestly, if he would have beat Robbie Lawler, where does he go? He's gonna fight Jorge Masvidal. Obviously, as we see now, this fight went. I don't even want to see that. Although I have my theories about Jorge that he potentially may be slowing down. Actually, I know he's potentially slowing down. I just don't think that a slowing down Jorge or not, he's not slowing down enough to not beat the piss out of Nick or Nate Diaz. Honestly. But this just shown me a few things. Is that I realized how much different Nick is than Nate. People said that they were the same fighter. They are not the same fighter. Honestly, they're very different. Nick throws way more shots than Nate. Way more volume than Nate. And Nate throws more 1-2s. And Nick, honestly, if I want to chalk it up, Nick may be the better boxer out of the two because Nate throws a bunch of 1-2s. So Nate has better boxing setup, I guess. But Nick throws so much like volume. Nick is honestly more of a boxer than Nate is. But Nate also has more forward pressure. Well, no, because this fight, Robbie just brought it to Nick. But basically, you get what I'm saying? Nick throws way more volume. Nate throws a bunch of 1-2s. But they both have that same menacing pressure. And they both have that same cardio gas tank to where they can go all day long. That's their main, and their high level Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's their main similarities right there. But Nick throws more kicks too. So I think actually that Prime Nick is a better fighter than Prime Nate. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it because just that alone, had Nick just evolved with the rest of the fighters, but he evolved that high volume style, Nick could be at the top of this welterweights division too. I mean, okay, he will be, obviously there's a bunch of wrestlers at the top, but like Nick just needed to, if Nick stayed active, I think Nick would be higher than Nate is what I'm saying. Because I think after seeing both of these guys fight at their prime, I've witnessed Nate at his prime. I didn't witness Nick at his prime because when Nick was fighting, I wasn't a fan of the UFC yet. I'll go ahead and admit it for the casuals that want to say, "Oh my gosh, bro, you haven't been watching MMA that long." Okay, I wasn't watching during the Nick Diaz era. I wasn't watching during the prime Nick Diaz era. I'm not gonna lie. Because why? Because I was like young whenever he was fighting. I was like 10 years old when that dude was fighting. But anyway, so like I was saying, Nick Diaz, prime Nick Diaz is better than prime Nate. After watching more of Prime Nate, I witnessed Prime Nate, but I didn't witness Prime Nick. But watching Prime Nick, like going back and doing research for the fights, Prime Nick was better than Nate, and plus the records just show he has a better record than Nate. But this isn't just they're just both different is what I realized from this fight. They're very different. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, both guys really shouldn't be fighting anymore because there's just no point. Robbie, okay, if Robbie beat Nick, so now I say set up Robbie versus Mike Perry. If Robbie wants to continue fighting, Robbie beats Mike Perry, okay, because that was my next step for both guys. Ease them into the top 10. Shall one of them win? Especially if Nick won, and let's say that Robbie slowed down after trying to beat the piss out of him early, because Robbie wasted no time in this fight. Robbie went straight for Nick and tried to finish him. And in the very beginning when I was watching it, I was like, oh man, because Robbie was throwing some lethal blows and like Nick was shelling up against the cage early. It was like the first 40 seconds. And I was like, oh, this is where it's going to get stopped. I mean, it looked like Nick had just no defense and he was just so slow that he couldn't get it out of the way. But then the dude started firing back, fire to the body, fire to the face. That dude threw so many punches. He threw 140 strikes before the first round was even over. I mean, you're talking about some Colby Covington type output. But ultimately, Robbie ended up, trying to do the bob and weave style, and he was coming forward and not throwing punches. That was weird, but a lot of people are saying, "Oh man, Robbie doesn't throw." Yeah, that is weird because he sits there and tries to bob and weave everything, and that's what got him in trouble with Colby. But Colby had the wrestling to push him back. Nick didn't, so it was like Robbie was just going to continue to bob and weave. If Nick was to push Robbie back, which I know Robbie wasn't allowing, but if Nick was to push Robbie back, we low-key could have saw the same Robbie Lawler against Colby Covington. It's just that Nick wasn't moving forward. But had Robbie slow down, because, dude, these guys were fighting at a pace. Had Robbie slowed down, and by the end of that third, bro, like, I honestly, what was the most interesting thing is who would have won. Because I gave the first round to Nick. Honestly, I gave the first round to Nick. Then I gave the second and the beginning of the... I gave the beginning of the second to Nick, but then Robbie started piecing him up late in the fight. And then I gave the beginning of the third to Nick until, obviously, what happened. But, it is what it is, But, mainly, what I'm trying to say is that had Robbie or Nick... Since Robbie won, obviously, right? And people are like, Nick gave up. Dude, he said he didn't want to make a mess. He didn't want to take any more damage. Okay, good. Because I didn't want to witness... I'd rather see it go out like that than to witness a brutal finish. I didn't want to see that. Honestly, for either guy. They're so old, man. They're legends. I don't want to see any of them get hurt and suffer some severe damage from this. But anyway, what I'm trying to get to is okay, so let's say Nick won. I would say ease him into the top 10. So after that, after Nick won, if Nick would have won, let's say, okay, let's give him another opponent that's been fighting. So give him Mike Perry and give him a 5 rounds against Mike Perry. Let's say he beats Mike Perry due to the volume and can take the power. Okay, then give him somebody like Neil Magny. Then just keep giving him these scraps, like guys right outside the top 10, not the best of the best. Just keep building him up. Just keep easing him up in there. And let's say he beats Perry and Magny, then I don't think he would accept a fight with Magny. But let's say that he beats Perry and Magny. Then give him Jorge. Then, okay, I'll be like, okay, give him Jorge. Then I will say give him Jorge. Because Nick is showing that he can compete with these active guys. That's my only thing. And he's shown tonight that he cannot compete. If he can't beat Robbie Lawler, he can't beat anybody. That's the harsh truth. And as for Robbie, give him Mike Perry. Ease him back into the top 10 if you want to make fun fights with him. But I think that he'll beat Mike Perry, but I don't think that he could beat anybody else. I mean, he'll lose to Magny again. He'll lose to all these guys above Magny, honestly. I don't. Like I said, there's just nothing more for these guys to achieve. Hang it up, bro. Hang it up. Okay. Let's talk about that main event. Let's talk about that championship title fight. Okay. Is there anybody in the world that's more resilient than Alexander Volkanovski? Because we talk about damage. Brian Ortega, I get why he took a long layoff against Max. Because he didn't want to get back in there concussed and still suffering from... Max put it on him. Max was dribbling this dude's head like a freaking... Y'all know that one boxing... That one, it's like the little ball on the stick. I forgot. What is the name of that? It's like you hit it and then it bounces back at you. It's so that you can hit a moving target in boxing. It's like the little thing you hit and then it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's that thing. That's how Brian Ortega's head looks like whenever he fought Max Holloway. And this fight was no different. So the tail of the fight, just the whole story, it just looked like Brian Ortega, his striking, man. I said that. He doesn't have the speed and the footwork. He has that slow footwork. He just can't get out of the way of strikes. And it just shown basically what this fight was. He just could not strike with Volkanovski. And he could not get it to succeed for him anywhere else. He couldn't get it to the ground as consistent as he needed to, especially early. And, I was watching the fight and he turned it on in that 5th round. And everybody's like, if he would have fought that the whole entire fight. Nah, bro, it was because Volkanovski was just slowing down. He was finally gassing. It was finally he put out so much output. Especially whenever the 2 submissions came, the 2 submission attempts, or 3 submission attempts, where whenever he got that guillotine, I thought it was over. I thought it was over at so many points. When he got the triangle, I thought it was over. When he got the freaking, Bro, all the submissions, I thought it was over. I was literally standing there yelling. I was like, there's no way he's getting out of this. Like, it's it. That's it. That's it. He's going to tap or he's going to get choked out. And then there was a point where he stopped moving. I was like, oh, no. I was like, Brian Ortega's the champ. Brian Ortega's the champ. Bro, I was like crunk. And then he slid out of it. And I was like, oh, Lord. You want to talk about the suspense, man. Great fight. Because early it was a bit of a doozy. Because, I mean, Volkanovski was just showing his striking freaking... Just showing he just had better striking, man. That his striking was just way better early. It's like Brian Ortega just could not strike with him. That was the tail of this fight. And then whenever he did get Volkanovski to the ground, almost submitted him. Volkanovski got out, and once he got on top of Brian Ortega and started landing those lethal shots, I was like, dude. Especially when at the end of that, what was that? The third or the fourth? It was the third, I think. And Volkanovski was just raining down vicious ground and pound. And honestly, Brian Ortega was not defending himself. Like, they should have stopped it there. Because that was so lethal. But had they stopped it there, we wouldn't have seen those two crazy submissions. So, like I said, you don't want to stop a fight, like, prematurely. Because you never know what happens, what will happen. But the display of heart that these two showed, this is a different type of heart. This is the type of heart that Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker and these guys are made of. These guys that fight and they fight like they are born fighters and they fight until they don't give up. You know what I mean? They don't give up, bro. That type of heart is something Conor McGregor will never have. Especially now in these days coming forward. He will never have that kind of heart. Like, can you just imagine, like, Conor McGregor, like, getting into a firefight and him breaking his nose, or him like breaking an orbital or something, like somebody lands a flush shot on him. Conor's striking is so good that we've never seen something like that happen to him. But let's say Conor gets like beat up like how Brian Ortega did. Conor's not getting off of the stool. He's not. Conor just does not have that type of dog in him. He does not. These guys have a different type of dog. These guys, like, it's almost as if it's either they're going to fight or they're just going to die in there, simply. That's how Brian Ortega went, and that's how Volkanovski went. I have so much respect for those two. And Volkanovski, after the fight, and he was talking about the build-up and talking about all the... Dude, the build-up was fun. The press conference was kind of weird because Brian Ortega just acted like he didn't want to talk crap back. But it's like, dude, so much respect for both of those guys. And Volkanovski's like, oh, I'm going to go heel now, mate. I'm going to go heel now. Honestly, go heel, bro. Because that was fun. Like, who doesn't want to see Volkanovski become the heel? No, I'm not saying, like, he should start, like, freaking, like, wearing MAGA hats and start, like, talking a bunch of... I'm not saying that. But, like, talk some crap, bro. Make it interesting. Like, make the fans want to watch your fights. Because I guarantee he'll turn into a much more likable champion. Have he go out there, talk some crap, not bringing up anything personal or bringing up anything stupid, but, like, just talk some crap. Like, whenever he fights Max Holloway, because the winner out of Yair Rodriguez and Max Holloway is next for the belt, and I think that Max Holloway is probably going to start Yair Rodriguez, but who knows? Because a Yair fight is a Yair fight. But let's say Max Holloway, they get the trilogy with Max. Talk some crap. I beat you twice. You shouldn't even be here. Like, da-da-da-da. I'm going to finish you this time. Like, I'm going to make sure that, like, if he talks some crap like that, and talks it to Max Holloway, and he goes out there and he beats Max Holloway more convincingly than he did the first two times. The first fight was boring, and then the second fight, I thought Max won, but I rewatched it again. I'll keep rewatching it, and I just think it was a draw now. I think that third round was a draw. Like, nobody won that third round. And, Volkanovski won the last two, and Max won the first two. So it's like, I thought it was a draw. They should hand out more draws in MMA. That's my opinion, because that fight was definitely a draw. Whenever you're going that pitter-patter fights, whenever you're just going based off of who landed more and counting all the baby strikes in there, dude, like, it's a draw. Like, it's a draw. Just chalk it up to a draw. But anyway, yeah, man, Volkanovski is becoming a very interesting figure in this featherweight division. I think he's going on the third. He beats Max Holloway again. He's the third greatest featherweight. He beats somebody else after Max Holloway. He starts beating these contenders that's not Max Holloway and not Brian Ortega. He, in my opinion, he will probably surpass Max. 2 more wins, he surpasses Max. That's just the harsh truth. It's going to take him a while to surpass Aldo. Aldo is the greatest featherweight of all time. And people need to stop crapping on that. Volkanovski has the potential to be the best featherweight of all time. He's the only guy that I can see right now to surpass him. Because Max Holloway, I do think, like, it's hard to say because of recency bias on who would win the third fight between those two. Because you see Max's fight with Calvin Kattar that everybody just wants to pretend just didn't happen or, like, forgets about. And now you see this fight. You gotta think that Max Holloway outstruck Brian Ortega in just as much as a dominant fashion. In my opinion, he probably dominated a little more. But, actually no, it was probably equal because Max was getting tagged back too. Brian just has that game-changing power, He can land and, like, change the course of the fight. But, as for who would win, it's just that they're both kryptonite to each other's styles, Max is the better striker, yeah, and he could outstrike him, but Volkanovski brings in those takedowns. Sorry. And, he's so versatile, and he can just make you fight his fight, because that is true. He adapts. When Max Holloway wants to beat up, like pour the pressure on, and then just beat up whoever he's standing in front of, he straight up does, man. He can just have you hurt, have you tired, and then just lay it on you. Volkanovski just doesn't allow that to happen. So then Max has to play the tit-for-tat striking game with Volkanovski and worry about the takedowns. That is always going to be a big problem for Max. That's always going to be a big problem whenever he faces Volkanovski, man. It's just going to be that he's going to have to utilize more stuff. Volkanovski's still going to kick his leg. Volkanovski is still going to try and wrestle him and mix up the striking with the wrestling. Max has to overcome that. And in these days, it's looking more slimmer and slimmer. I still think Max could win, but bro, I don't know. I don't know. Volkanovski is so good, man. I got a video on him coming up later in the week, and we'll talk about his longevity as champion and how dominant he could be. Okay, let's move on to the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko and Lauren Murphy. I don't know, bro. I'm sorry, you guys. I just woke up. I know it's mid-afternoon, but as I'm recording this, it's not the evening because I know it'll post by it'll post later, but it's early right now as I'm recording this, so bear with me. Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. What can I say other than Valentina Shevchenko is just too good? I mean, a typical Valentina Shevchenko performance. The one thing that's hindering Valentina Shevchenko, in my opinion, though, is that she gives her opponents too much respect, man. She just, sits out and waits way too much and just relies on kicks and wanting to counter. She's so fast. Probably the greatest counterpuncher in women's MMA, but she waits too much for the counter, man. She lets people walk her down. And it's like, Lauren Murphy just found out early that she was iced. She could not do anything. She couldn't get anything going. She just could not. And it's like, that's a common Valentina Shevchenko thing. It's like a lot of people find themselves in that kind of trouble with Valentina Shevchenko. Just staring, just in straight tunnel vision, not being able to get out of it's like she just ices them. They just become frozen in front of her because they can't get anything going. It's hard to hit her. She's too fast. Whenever they try to come in, they get countered. And then those lethal kicks to the body, lethal kicks to the legs. My only thing is that I feel like Valentina Shevchenko could have finished that fight a lot earlier had she just walked Lauren Murphy down and tried to make things happen, because she was so much better than Lauren that she literally could have done anything. She literally could have finished her, literally could have just walked her down and just beat her up. She could have fought with Lauren Murphy's style and beat Lauren Murphy at her own style. That's how much better Valentina Shevchenko was than Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy basically won this. She basically earned her title shot off of robberies. I thought she lost to Andrea Lee. I watched that fight live from Houston. I was in the arena, and I thought she lost, and the crowd thought she lost. But because she was from Houston, she got a bit of a pop. Because it's Houston, you're fighting in your hometown, so there's going to be bias. But, what's next for Valentina Shevchenko? Honestly, fight Amanda Nunes. But I'm not going to lie, you guys. Valentina Shevchenko gives her opponents way too much respect. And it's like, I think that she looks too much to be perfect in there. She wants to be perfect, pristine, tit for tat, everything perfect. Doesn't get hit, she tries to make it too clean. And she's just so much better than the girls in there that she can, But, like I said, man, the too much respect is going to hinder her if she fights Amanda Nunes, She gives Amanda Nunes too much respect. It only looks to counter. You're giving Amanda a shot to walk you down and fight her fight and give her best shot to land something big on you. I'm just being honest. But I think the big difference in that fight, if they do fight again, which I just think that they should, I don't know why they won't make that fight again, is just that I feel like it's just going to be the power difference, obviously, but there's going to be this speed difference to make it different. You know, who wins that fight? It is 50-50 again, because Amanda's size and Amanda's power and Amanda's presence, period, is going to be just, it's always going to be a problem for Valentina, if you guys, like, honestly. The harsh truth about that, yeah, the speed, but it's the size and the power that's going to be the difference. I don't think that she'll hit Valentina Shevchenko clean enough to rock her or drop her. But I do think that the moment she does land a glancing shot, it's going to make Valentina Shevchenko respect her even more. And Valentina's just only going to look to counter and just throw kicks to be safe. That's just her style, man. She wants to be too perfect in there, man. I think that she should just go for it and then just end these girls, man. Just end it. Become more entertaining. But, you know, the fans like her. And I like her too. Why not? Okay, so these next two little fights we're going to breeze through because I got to get to the boxing. So, let's go. Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I mean, a snoozer, like the snoozer of the card. I mean, it was more boring than the co-main event, in my opinion. So, like, really what it was is that Curtis Blades was a little bit more safe, a little bit more smart with his takedowns. He did end up eating a flush flying knee from Jairzinho. But, you know, he didn't just go in there and then just lead with his head and trying to spam takedowns like he did against Derek Lewis, because he knew that he was fighting another knockout artist. Jairzinho Rozenstruik's power was compared to the likes of Derek Lewis and compared to all these guys. Nah, man. He hits hard. Don't get me wrong. He's a knockout finisher. Like, I think he hits harder than guys like Stipe, guys like JDS, although he's not fighting in the heavyweight division. Guys like Volkov, he hits harder than Gane. I do think he's top 3 puncher in the heavyweight division. But there's a clear difference between him and Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. Their power is just on another level, you know. But don't get me wrong, he still could have knocked out Curtis Blades. But Curtis was a lot more smart, a lot more, like, technical. He had to play that game. Like, he said it to the crowd. He's like, I'm sorry that this was a boring fight, but, like, I can't just go out here and then just be stupid, you know? In my opinion, though, what really drags the name down of a fighter is not that you lose. Like, what really hurts your stock, so to say, is that whenever you go out there and fight and they boo you. That hurts your stock more than anything. Because it's the fans that buy into your fights, right? It's the fans that have to see you fight that want to pay money. Like, you know, what I'm trying to say is that the fans are what makes the sport. And they have to tune in to want to watch you fight. So you can't go on and talk about these things like fighter pay if you're going out there and the crowd is booing your performance. That is going to hurt your stock more than anything, because if they boo, then that's going to bring less interest into your fight. I'm like, man, this dude's a boring fighter. I'll just skip it, this one. I'll just look at the highlights later. You don't want to be that guy, bro. You don't want to be that guy that puts on the boring fights, because losing does not hurt your stock as bad as putting on a boring performance. That hurts your stock more than anything. Just ask Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya could have been a million pay-per-view star. He can't crack a million by himself. I'm sorry. To all the Easy fans watching, Israel Adesanya cannot crack a million pay-per-views by himself. He cannot do it. Why? Because the dude hurt his stock. He could have been, had he kept putting on flashy, like impressive performance and not just playing it safe, just throwing leg kicks and jabs and moving your feet. Those two boring fights with Romero and, Romero, that fight with Romero hurt his stock. The fact that he puts on boring fights hurts his stock. He needs to stop doing that. And honestly, the fight against Blachowicz was a bit of a doozer. The fight against Marvin Vettori was a bit of a doozer. It's because this dude doesn't go for it. And that hurts your stock. But how does this correlate with the Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Curtis Blades performance? Is because it's like both guys, Curtis was being he was being safe, which good, but Rozenstruik was just being way too safe. And that's Rozenstruik's second boring performance, you guys. that is going to drive down his stock. Nobody's going to want to see this guy fight as he keeps putting on these boring freaking performances. He got taken down and he didn't want to go forward anymore. He didn't want to, even though that's how you beat a wrestler, you got to push him back because it's harder to wrestle. That guy got taken down. He got back up. He got a little winded and he was like, hey, I don't want to get taken down again. So now I'm going to only look to counter. That was the story of this fight. Curtis Blaydes isn't gonna lunge in there and try and knock you out, bro. That's not his style. He can strike with the likes of Rosenstrike, but had he go in there and try to strike with him, he would have got knocked out, and he knew that. It's Rosenstrike's must that he goes in there and he tries to make something happen because one, you're losing and you're fighting a wrestler, bro. You're fighting a wrestler. But he didn't take the chance. Another boring performance by Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and what can I say other than, what's next for him? Honestly, Curtis Blaydes, dude, he's called out the loser out of Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane. Sure. Sure. But I think he should fight Volkov again, I don't know, bro. He's in a weird spot. But as for Jairzinho Rozenstruik, honestly, this could go for both guys. For Blaydes, he could honestly get a rematch with Lewis, right that wrong, prove that, but that's a scary fight for him, either way it goes. And then as for Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I think he should fight Lewis too, but nowadays, bro, he's so hittable, I think that he gets knocked out by Derek Lewis, honestly. I think Derek Lewis puts his lights out, the way he fights. The same way, I think he gets put out because it was way too fast the way he got put out by Francis Ngannou. Wasn't it some crazy stuff like 20 seconds or something like that? It was the first exchange, and he got knocked out against the cage. Bro, that's I feel like Derek Lewis could do the same thing to him. So, but make that fight. That's a fun fight, honestly. I want to see that because Derek Lewis brings it. Regardless, he's gonna bring it. He's gonna go out there and try and hit Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is probably gonna sit back and try and counter, and that's just gonna lead to him getting knocked out again. Early prediction for that fight. So, let's move on. Jessica Andrade versus Cynthia Calvillo. Honestly, what's to say about this fight other than it was just a big power difference? This is likely how Covington Usman is going to go again. This is how I see it, is that Cynthia landed more, but Jessica, when she landed, had the bigger reactions. She was literally walking through, like a tank, walking through what Cynthia had to offer and then landing her strikes, and Cynthia could not take the power. Every time Jessica landed, she folded. It's like she just could not take it. She could not take it. And so it's like, I knew eventually a finish was coming. Just because every exchange they get into, and had Jessica land a glancing shot, it got a big reaction out of her. Everybody's calling early stoppage. Nah, bro. It's like she was going to get stopped early. It was going to end, bro. It was she just could not take the power. At the end of the day, she just could not take the power. As for Jessica Andrade, there's not even much to say about that fight other than just that. Just a big power difference. That was really the story of the fight. Cynthia put out more and hit her with more, but when Jessica hit her, it got the big reaction out of her and stopped her, TKO'd her. She just could not take it. Okay. Once again, moving on. Now let's talk boxing. I think that's next. Oh, no. We got to get through this Dan Hooker-Hasparat fight. Yeah. So, okay. So, Dan Hooker, Hasparat. Okay. So, the story of this fight, that Dan Hooker added some new tools to his game, and he went for it this time. Proud of Dan Hooker, man. That's how he needs to fight. What's next for him, and I know you're going to call me crazy. Michael Chandler loses to Gaethje, him versus Chandler next. Because after that, Chandler will be on a 3-fight losing streak if he loses, 2-fight, sorry. If he loses to Justin Gaethje, he'll be on a 2-fight losing streak. So then Dan Hooker will be off of a win that time. I think they should run it back. Really, I think they should run it back. Because I think Dan Hooker, he goes forward, I think he could do a lot better than what he did. It could end in a knockout again, but honestly, I think that's unlikely. I don't think that Michael Chandler can do better than what he did the first time. Because Dan Hooker just wanted to be way too technical. He did not want to engage with Michael Chandler, which was weird. I think Dan Hooker could do a lot better against Michael Chandler the second go-round. If Chandler loses. If Chandler wins, obviously that fight goes out the window. But let's just talk about the fight. Dan Hooker just added a bunch of new tools to his game. Or not a bunch. He just added the wrestling. He's a wrestling now. He's shooting more. And I like that from him. And he's throwing the body because his striking isn't a problem. His offensive striking tonight is actually really good. It's just his defense, the fact that the guy gets hit, and it's just the defense. And he tried to be way too technical against Michael Chandler, and it got him knocked out. It's mainly just the fact that he gets hit. But with the wrestling, adding the wrestling, and now he's going forward and forcing his fight onto his opponents is what he should do. Throw the calf kicks, back them up, and then go forward and try to land your offense. And when they come in, counter with the double leg. That was beautiful performance by Dan Hooker. Beautiful performance. Although he got hit, he still has that. The dude still gets hit. The dude is still a punching bag. Other than that, he added the wrestling to his takedown. I'm happy. He went forward. I'm happy. I'm impressed with Dan Hooker. The defense is still an issue, but you know what? Let's give him some time. Let's give him some more guys. Maybe he'll improve. Maybe he'll learn from his mistakes eventually. But now we can talk the boxing. Oh, wait. If if Michael Chandler beats Justin Gaethje, who should Dan Hooker fight next? Give him Beneil Dariush. I love that fight, actually. I love that fight. And I favor Dan Hooker. I think Dan Hooker can win that fight. Honestly, I think Dan Hooker, that's a very winnable fight for him. Very winnable fight for both guys. But I think he's a bad matchup for Beneil Dariush. Call me crazy. I think Dan Hooker is a nightmare matchup for Beneil Dariush. I don't think Beneil Dariush will accept that fight next, though. I think Beneil Dariush is going to look to fight up. And I think that he's probably going to fight. I think that he's probably going to look to fight Justin Gaethje if Justin Gaethje beats Michael Chandler. I think they'll set up something like a number one contender fight. And Beneil Dariush, I think if Justin Gaethje beats Beneil Dariush, then Justin Gaethje is going to beat Charles Oliveira. I think that's the warm-up for Charles Oliveira. If Gaethje can beat him. Okay, so anyway, not to get sidetracked. Those are my two things that's next for Dan Hooker. Now we can talk the boxing. Okay, so here's a little test for my viewers. If you guys are really loyal subscribers, I want to know if you guys hear this because this is at the end of the podcast. So, let's talk about this. So if you guys want me to cover more boxing, just, only for the big fights, and want me to make more breakdowns for the big fights, let me know. Let me know down in the comments. I'm going to say this, I am a fan of boxing, and I do know boxing, but I know way more about mixed martial arts than I do boxing. That's the honest. But if you guys want me, I will do the research and I will commit. Because you guys know, you guys are my everything. I have to give you guys what you guys want to see. And if you guys want to see it, then I will 100% make more boxing content. Because at the end of the day, I'm grateful for you guys. You guys are the ones that gave me this platform. Even if it is just 315 subscribers. All 315 subscribers, all 315 of you are the reason why I make these videos in the first place. So if you guys want more boxing content, let me know. But let's talk boxing. Okay, so basically, bro, Usyk, people were screaming robbery after the fight. No, Usyk beat Anthony Joshua. That's crazy. Alexander Usyk is greatness. He is a great fighter. Anthony Joshua found out the harsh way that, he just wasn't simply on his level. And Usyk, man, what's the most crazy thing about it is that I thought that this was a handy one for Joshua. I thought that Joshua could outbox him as well as knock him out. That was not the case. The footwork and just the unorthodoxness of Alexander Usyk. Is it just me, or does this guy kind of box? He has that kind of funky style like an MMA fighter. He's like the TJ Dillashaw of boxing. Does that make any sense? It's like his style-wise, he's kind of fun to watch. It's very unorthodox. And boy, he just kept popping Anthony Joshua, man. He just kept popping him, making him look kind of dumb in there. But, the story of the fight, he just simply got outboxed. Anthony Joshua got outboxed. And he can't be a tank with everybody, man. He just cannot be a tank with everybody. And he was looking to box with Usyk, and he just found out he couldn't box with Usyk. And now that I think about it, maybe he should have just went for the knockout more. Because, dude, he just got outboxed. And I said that in my breakdown. I said there's a chance that he just simply gets outboxed in this fight, and that's simply what happened. He even got rocked at one point in the fight. And Anthony Joshua, man, he gets rocked in every fight. But like I said, I don't want him to be, known as this guy with no chin. Anthony Joshua got made look like a freaking novice in there. Alexander Usyk is greatness, man. Bro, and I seen people saying Deontay Wilder, if he beats Tyson Fury, he's gonna the winner out of Fury and Wilder 3 is gonna do everything that they can to not fight Alexander Usyk, and I totally agree. I think Tyson Fury is gonna entertain it, but not fight him. I think Deontay Wilder, same thing, entertain it, but not fight him. Because I'll tell you what, you think you had a hard time with Fury the first time, Wilder, he's going to have a terrible time with Alexander Usyk, especially with that unorthodoxness. He is going to get pieced up, but Wilder has that game-changing power, bro. Game-changing power. Game-changing power. But, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Boxing. This is what boxing needs to do more of. They need to keep making fights like Wilder Fury 3 in this fight. They need to keep making the best fight the best. They need to force the best to fight the best. You know? Really. If they want to compete with the UFC nowadays and stop these influencer fights, because I'll tell you what. These influencer fights, these Jake Paul fights, MMA fans care. Boxing fans don't care. But whenever you don't make the fights that people want to see, you're going to make these boxing viewers go into these stupid freak show fights. That's the harsh truth. These freak show fights are going to continue to happen if boxing doesn't make the best fight the best. And if, the UFC keeps letting these guys box. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. But, this is what boxing needs. That was an entertaining night of fights for boxing. And they did the right thing, making the pay-per-view earlier so it wouldn't have to step on the UFC style, which is interesting because I wonder what they're going to do for Canelo versus Caleb Plant. I wonder what they're going to do for that. Because if they do end up making that fight, they did make that fight, and all that craziness went down, because it's the same fight, I believe. I believe that fight is on the same night of Covington versus Usman 2, and Canelo versus Plant is a big fight, but it's not competing with that card. It's not even. It's not going to be in the same ballpark. Mark my words. It's not going to compete. So, I think their best bet is to make it early. Is to make the Canelo versus Plant fight earlier, like how they did with this fight, and let the UFC have the night, man, because they're not. Trust me, that's going to hurt them if they try to go head-for-head with the UFC again like they did with Masvidal versus Diaz. I know Canelo probably saw that and was like, man, this happened again? Yeah, brother. So, like I said, if you want me to cover more boxing, I can break down the Fury-Wilder 3 fight. If you guys really want more boxing content, and y'all show good feedback to my boxing content, I will make more boxing content. I'll make a breakdown for Wilder versus Fury 3. I'll make a breakdown for Canelo versus Plant, and etc. More big fights come down the road. Crawford versus Sean Porter. I'll make more breakdowns for boxing if you guys want to see it. So, yeah, just the big fights. I'm not going to cover all the fights because that'll just be annoying. But I'll do boxing as well as MMA if you guys want to see it. I got a lot of boxing content ideas. Okay. So I'm ending this podcast on this. I know Jon Jones got in trouble earlier this week with the law. Domestic battery, domestic violence, all this tampering with a car. Jon Jones just can't stay out of trouble, and I just don't want to give any more light to that, man. I don't want to just project the negative, because Jon Jones is the MMA's GOAT. He is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. No discussing it. No, to me, in my opinion, it's been no contest. I understand steroids. Everybody has been accused of using steroids, bro. Jon Jones has tested positive for it, but there hasn't even been enough. What he's tested positive for, it wasn't enough in his system to even make it a performance enhancer, 1. And then 2, the other stuff he got popped for was for cutting weight, and there's only been trace amounts. There's never been like a big amount to where it's like, yep, he was steroid, like TRT Vitor, for instance. So it's like, and he's been clean now, and he was still beating guys. So it's like, I don't let the steroid accusations factor heavily in basing my opinion on who's the greatest. The greatest is, well, number 1, Jon Jones, number 2, George St. Pierre, and number 3, Anderson Silva. That's how. No, sorry. I think Anderson was greater than GSP just due to the fact of the performances, the finishes, and yeah. So it's number 1, Jon Jones, number 2, Anderson Silva, and number 3, GSP, in my opinion. Then number 4, Jose Aldo. That's my number 5. If I have to make a number 5, That's hard because Demetrius Johnson. That's my top 5 MMA GOATs. So, notice how I didn't say Khabib. Why? Because Khabib is not top 10. Oops, sorry. Hate to say it. He might be top 10. I put him over like Chuck Liddell. That's it. Anyway, but basically, I saw that he got in trouble. Jon Jones, he just, outside of fighting, the guy just cannot stay out of trouble. And like I said, it's a black guy in the sport whenever the greatest of all time gets into constant. Imagine if LeBron James got into as much trouble as Jon Jones. Imagine how much of a black eye on the NBA that would be. Imagine if Michael Jordan did the same thing. Imagine Kobe Bryant had the same problem. It's a black eye on the sport, bro. And this needs to stop happening. And since it's so much of a black eye, that's why I didn't make a video about it, because I don't want that to continue to be projected. I don't want to just keep riding the wave of like bad things, because Conor is doing it enough. These guys are equally as bad. So it's like, I don't want to keep like Conor and Jones, 2 of the UFC's most popular fighters, are the guys who are constantly getting in trouble. And I just don't want to dwell on it. That's why I didn't make a video on it. And that's why I'm bringing it up at the end of the podcast. Because it's like, it's stupid, man. It's stupid. Jon Jones needs to stay out of trouble, and I'll just, I keep saying that, and he keeps getting in trouble. It's like, it's typical Jones behavior, man. It's like, I don't think he'll ever stop, honestly. I think we'll keep seeing instances where this dude just keeps doing stupid stuff. And we're just going to have to deal with it. All right, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, let me know. And I want to see if you guys made it to the end. If you guys made it to the end, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Even if it is 315 subscribers, even if my views are plummeting, I'm going to continue pouring out way more content. I'm going to get back to the frequency that I was when I first started this YouTube stuff. I'm going to get on my YouTube grind this week. So a lot more to expect from me in the near future. It's been your boy Trippy, and I'm out, man.